There will be some of you who may lose up to $200,000 because you make this one mistake on launch day between River Green and Promenade Peak. These are two major project launches, and to be honest, if you have been to the show flat over the weekend, you have noticed that a lot of people are actually very excited about this project. But this also means that on booking day itself, there will be some serious money decisions that you are going to make. Through this video, I hope to give you clear comparisons between these two projects, dissecting from very macro perspectives such as project information all the way down to individual floor plans and the prices as well. Now, if you have been to any booking day, you know that when you're in the snake queue, it is likely going to be very pressurizing and very stressful. So the most important thing whenever I work with any buyers is I always tell them that if you are making a decision based on stress, there is a high chance where you will make very costly mistakes. So that's why I still chose to make this video even though I'm somehow a little bit later and the preview has already started. But for those of you that is watching this video, my only hope is for you to be able to gain clarity and to be able to make more informed decisions when you go to booking day for these two launches. Why is it important for you to know is because most likely you will be placing checks for these two projects at the same time. Now, based on these two projects, there is a very high chance whereby you'll get two different queue numbers. Actually, if your queue numbers are very far apart, is where you will be able to decide easier. But however, what if your queue number is very close? Then in this sense, if let's say for example your queue number is 100 for River Green and for Promenade Peak you are 200. So when both is happening at the same time, then how do you make a decision? Because you can only buy one unit, right? If you are in this kind of very sticky scenario, what I actually encourage you to do is actually tell your agent that you want to be in the thinking box, because this is where you will be able to book anytime even if you miss your queue. If you are stressed, you can also take a little bit more time to decide which are the units that you want to go for. In the thinking box, here is something that you want to run through. You need to observe the volume or what is the movement on both sides. For example, if you are looking at a 2-bedroom and you have a budget for a 2-bedroom in River Green, but at the same time, your budget can also allow you to go for a 1+ study in Promenade. So based on the volume of the sales transaction, you will be highly likely able to gauge what is the demand for a unit type in this area. And once you're able to gauge the demand, then you'll be able to actually decide for yourself even faster. Going deeper, if let's say River Green's 2-bedroom units are moving much faster than Promenade, then if you are already in the thinking box, then this is where you should go ahead to buy your River Green unit. Vice versa, right? If let's say Promenade Peak's units start to move, then this is where you will want to change your focus to buy your River Green unit. I think it's still a little bit more confusing, but as my video goes by, you'll be able to actually have much more clarity in terms of what I'm trying to explain to you. And not to worry, throughout the whole process, I'll try to, as much as possible, gauge based on a specific budget, then what is it that you should focus on first. So before I actually go through my next segment, do remember to join my community on my Telegram channel. I think so far the past few weeks I've been sharing content quite actively over there because there are a lot of my personal opinions that sometimes I would like to talk about, or possibly some dropout units. This is where I usually will be able to update very regularly, unlike my YouTube channel where I post content weekly, right? If you actually enjoy my content so far, would you take a moment to like and subscribe to my channel? We are going to run through the project info very quickly. For River Green, it belongs to District 9, whereas for Promenade Peak is actually located in District 3. So both projects are around 500 units. For River Green, the highest floor is 36 floors, whereas for Promenade Peak is 63 floors. So we are talking at a super tall tower. They are, although like maybe one street apart, they are practically neighbors, but they have different districts. So this is not the first time we are experiencing this. The last time this thing happened was with Martin Modern. So Martin Modern was in District 9, Riviera is in District 3. Does it affect you a lot? Actually, based on past transactions, not so much. Practically, I think people who are looking into these areas, unless it's more towards the older generations, they would actually care a lot about district. So gauging from Riviera, it doesn't really affect the profits at all, especially for the bigger unit size. Let's look at the landscaping for River Green versus Promenade Peak. So for River Green wise, I would say that because they have quite a irregular land size, because of the limitations of how the land is, the facilities are actually longer, because when they bought over this piece of land already like that, it belongs more towards a triangular shape. Due to this shape, entrance is very far off from the main development itself, and because of that, the entrance definitely feels a little bit more compressed. I think when we want to talk about it being very grand, it is somewhat compromised as compared to what Promenade Peak is. Promenade Peak is actually a regular plot, so naturally it will give off a very grand entrance feeling. And being in this district, I would say that having that grand feeling is very important, because this allows more community space, more landscaping, and often when there is more community space, more facilities, more landscaping, generally in the prime districts, this is where the projects that have these kind of attributes will do better. So I think if we were to compare between these two projects, Promenade Peak would definitely have more advantage. And quite frankly, when I brought buyers to see over the weekend, they would prefer Promenade Peak's facilities more, because Promenade Peaks, they have the advantage to be able to section their facilities between 3 sky terraces, and on the ground floor they have also very nice facilities as well. So the overall impression of the project by itself, Promenade Peak would still stand out as compared to River Green. But of course, when we talk about the landscaping and how the facilities look, it is not the only thing that we should focus on. Does that mean that River Green is not something you should look at? No. Later on in my project analysis, when I dive into the specific unit types, actually River Green does have some advantage or is more competitive as compared to Promenade Peak. Here is the unit distribution between these two projects. The first one we want to talk about is actually Promenade Peak. So the highest level is 63 floors. Actually, how they distribute the unit types is the smallest unit is actually a 1+ study, and the biggest unit is actually the 5-bedroom all the way up to the penthouse. So the developers actually load the 1-bedroom all the way up to the smaller 3 bedrooms from level 2 to level 44. Subsequently, the premium units, which is what we call the 3-bedroom premium, the 4 and the 5-bedroom and the penthouses, they are on the higher levels between 44 to 62 stories. For the premium unit, they actually have private lift access. As compared to River Green, their smallest unit is actually the 1-bedroom. They actually range all the way up to the 4 bedrooms. One of the concerns will be that for River Green, they have 15 units on one level. The bigger units are also located on the same floors as the small units. If you look at the bigger units, they are definitely all going to be at the corner units. So if let's say for example the lobby is here, if you stay in a bigger unit, this will mean that you have to walk past quite a few units. You will share a longer corridor, and you will have to end up walking to the corner to reach your house. And because you share so many neighbors in one level, this also makes the place feel less exclusive. As compared to Promenade Peak, I think the developers are a little bit more thoughtful. It's because they actually put the premium units on the top level, and the premium units also have their own private lifts. If you are talking about the non-premium units, on one level there are only 6 units. So having 6 units per lobby will definitely feel more premium and more exclusive as compared to having 15 units per level, whereby you have so many neighbors along your walkway. So in this sense, I will feel that Promenade Peak will feel more exclusive as compared to River Green. Based on both developers, I think they have very similar attributes here, because they actually have about 60+% on the smaller units, focusing more towards the 1 and 2 bedrooms over here. So we can see that based on the 4 bedrooms and above, they have quite a small fraction of the units as compared to the smaller units. When we look at the past 2 launches, which was just over, take Upper House, take Robertson Opus, actually in this area, the bigger units tend to be more sought after. And for Opus and Upper House, the big units are actually quite oversubscribed. In fact, for Opus, the remaining unit is that second floor unit. All the 4 bedrooms are actually sold out. Even if we don't talk about Opus and Upper House, Canning Hill Piers, their 4 bedrooms were the first one to sell. And they don't sell by the lower floor going up first as compared to the smaller units or as compared to the mass market transactions. They actually sell from the top down. That means the higher level units, the ones that have unblocked view, are the first one that get sold out first. So we can see that the demographics in this area actually focus more towards the bigger unit types, even though most of the units loading is based on smaller units, but a lot of people, I feel they are actually trying to compare the prices between these 4 launches as of now, seeing which one is of a better value. Yeah, so pretty exciting. If you are looking at a small unit, do want to make sure you actually are making more informed decision. When there's a lot of hype, it's very easy for you to get confused and buy out of stress. I hope that you don't do that. Don't act out of pressure, yeah? Also, just want to add on that even if you miss out on these 2 projects, if the prices get too high, right, Zion Grand is coming in October, November. If you don't get any from these 2, you still have another option. So don't feel pressurized to settle for something you are not comfortable with. Okay. So at the time of this video, the indicative prices have already come out already. So for Promenade Peak, 1+ study, because they are bigger unit, which is 527 square feet, their starting price is 1.4 million and so on and so forth. So definitely in general, when you compare the prices between Promenade Peak and River Green, you'll notice that Promenade Peak has a higher quantum, not because the developers are selling more expensive, but first because the distribution between the level. River Green is only 36 stories, Promenade Peak 63 stories. So generally, if they do a price increment, plus the developers also build bigger units. So in comparison, quantum is definitely going to be higher. But in this sense, when I look at it generally, I think River Green's prices will attract a lot of HDB buyers who have seen a lot of mass market launches already, because based on the indicative price of River Green is very similar to what OCR prices is. Some OCR prices are actually hitting 2,800 per square foot. RCR, yeah, definitely 27 to 29 per square foot is natural. For Promenade Peak and River Green, I don't feel that developers are launching it expensive, because when you look at prices over there in the OCR and RCR, right, suddenly you will see that the developers actually not selling very expensively. $2,800 to $3,000, honestly, doesn't really look so crazy anymore. Because we have these indicative prices, I'm also going to base today's analysis on a certain price that I've plotted out for you, not because these prices are confirmed, but because based on a rough estimation, based on per floor increment methodology that I've adopted by looking at past launches and what the surrounding projects, how the developers price the units, right? I use this indicative price to actually gauge what is the prices going to be like for the individual projects. So just want to do a quick disclaimer here. These prices are not official. I do not represent any developer or my company. This is just based on my personal opinions. Do not actually take this price as final. When you buy a property, please also do your due diligence. And if you need clarity, contact me and I can actually guide you along as well. Alright, so today's project analysis, the prices are just going to be based on price estimation. Although it's not perfect, but it's going to be very close to what the launch prices are. So there are a few indicators on how I'm going to price the units. Number one is based on the 0.5 per floor increment methodology. So how I do it is actually when I look through the past launches surrounding the launch prices for individual units actually range from 0.3 all the way up to 0.8% per floor increment. But for the ease of today's analysis, I use an average of 0.5% to gauge by per floor increment. Now, I also done up the price matrix for all the unit types, which I will talk about when we look at the individual unit types from the smallest all the way up to the biggest. And because we have the indicative prices ready, it is easy for me to plot it based on the starting price. And I'm also going to use some of cross-project price comparisons to do it. So first, we are going to look at the smallest unit type, which is River Green. River Green actually has 1 bedroom, which is the smallest unit type in these two projects. So if you are looking at about a budget of 1.2 million, right, this is the only unit type that you possibly will get. So here's what might save you from a costly mistake. And it honestly is not about whether this project is good or not, but because of how functional this layout is. So this is a 1 bedroom floor plan, which is 420 square feet. I think the good side about this floor plan, it has a proper tuck-in kitchen over here, which is pretty amazing because in 1 bedrooms, usually what we will see are linear kitchens that are along the walkway. I think this is a very well thought floor plan. Of course, highly likely if you're buying into a 1 bedroom over here, you will most probably be thinking about it in an investment standpoint. So I also included the average rental for you based on the surrounding developments that is Riviere and also Well Hill residence. I did not put in Riviere because the size of the project is much bigger. They actually have bigger unit types ranging from 500 to 600 square feet. So in terms of rental, you will see that they averagely fetch about 5,000 plus for their 1 bedroom. I feel that it is a little bit too big to gauge the 5,000 plus for the 1 bedroom over here. That's why I use a lower rental to be more conservative, a more similar size compared to River Green. So a Well Hills 1 bedroom is about 400 plus and their median rental is about $4,200. So in this sense, when we look at River Green, what is the price that you can go for? Over here, I actually put in a red line over here. It indicates what is a price that I'll actually encourage you to walk away. So for 1 bedroom, it's pretty easy because you can take out the rental and measure it against your purchase price. If your rental is about 4,200, right, and you want to fetch a very high rental yield, if you can get something at 1.2, I think that's the best because your rental can potentially go up to 4.2%. But even if you go all the way up to level 23 at $1.33 million, your rental yield will still be pretty amazing at 3.8% because River Valley has one of the highest rental yield. Anything that's above, not say you cannot purchase, but it is very similar to what Promenade Peak's 1 plus study. At $1.4 million, you get extra study, you get bigger space and better landscaping and facilities. But with that being said, if you are able to get something that's on the lower floors, anything that's between 1.2 to 1.3 million, to be honest, in the new launches over the past year, right, this price you can only get something that is in the heartland area or more towards the city fringe area. You can never find something that is in the CTR area. And to add on, in those areas, their rental might not be as high as what River Valley is fetching as well. So in this sense, I will feel that this 1 bedroom definitely is one of the best investment so far this year. Okay, next we are going to the 1 plus study. I actually put in River Green's 1 plus study and compare it to Promenade Peak's 1 plus study as well. So even though River Green is still smaller size at 452 square feet, since we are at this topic, you can see based on this kitchen, even though it's not perfect, you can build in a glass wall here and then a sliding panel to actually enclose it. The study is also segregated over here. I feel that as compared to what the Promenade Peaks study is, I still have a preference for River Green study because this study is definitely more proper. I compare it to Promenade Peak. From what I see so far, the main difference is actually at the foyer area. This foyer area, you pay maybe 60 plus square feet more in terms of the prices. If you're looking at it from a rental standpoint, it might not be as lucrative as compared to a smaller 1 plus study. For the 1 plus study, I actually did up a different strategy for you to make things a little bit more clearer. You can see that this time as compared to the previous pricing analysis, I have different colors to indicate different zones. What does it mean? I'm now using a little bit more elaborated by zoning the prices, because on booking day, right, it's going to be quite chaotic. So it is important for you to plot out the prices that roughly the units are going to be. By doing this, it will make you clearer. If I compare between these two projects side by side, I have priorities on different units at different projects. So take for example, River Green's unit is much smaller as compared to Promenade Peak, and most probably the future tenant or resale buyers would not be able to really pinpoint on what is the main difference. If you're somebody who is focusing on budget strictly, right, then focus on River Green first, because River Green's 1 plus study is much cheaper at 1.29 plus million, right? It is actually about $100,000+ cheaper than what Promenade Peak is. So if let's say on that day River Green's 1 plus study is priced at 1.29 and above, I would say that anything between 1.29 to 1.398 would be something that you can focus on first. Anything that is closer to 1.4 will be hitting Promenade Peak's 1 plus study already. My next priority is to go to the zone 2 of where I categorize the units, which is right over here. At 1.4 all the way up to 1.5 million, although it is 1.4 million is a bit more expensive, but it's also bigger in terms of unit size. So being bigger will also mean that at the same quantum, it is going to command a lower per square foot. And technically speaking, Promenade Peak also has slightly better facilities, but anything that's above 1.5, you are already hitting the 2-bed 1-bath starting price for River Green's units. So this is where you want to see, is there any 2-bed 1-bath units that you can choose from? So you can see over here that it is quite a lengthy explanation. It is actually not easy for you to be very aware of these kind of prices. So most importantly, I hope that you take a screenshot of this chart. If you want a spreadsheet, I can share with you. Anyway, I've already done the spreadsheet already. No point for me keeping to myself. I think if I'm able to help you to have more clarity, I'm happy to share. Do reach me out from my contact number. Then this will probably be able to help you to have more clarity when you select between these two projects. The next one I want to compare with you is River Green's 2-bed 1-bath versus Promenade Peak 1 plus study. So why I actually put these two floor plans together is because the size is very similar. River Green's 2-bed 1-bath is actually the same size as 1 plus study. So it's just different functionality. Of course, I would say that for River Green's 2-bed 1-bath, developers done very well because they still have a tuck-in kitchen over here. They basically maximize every square footage. So I really appreciate it. And I love this floor plan, to be honest. Of course, during booking day, needless to say, Green's 2-bed 1-bath is definitely going to be more expensive than Promenade Peak's 1 plus study. Now the question is, what is the threshold going to be? And most importantly, before booking day, you must decide what is your exact threshold. When you decide, it shouldn't be, I think, anything that's around $100,000 more. This cannot help you in deciding, because if you're thinking about 100,000, right, can slowly inch up all the way to $150,000 to $180,000. And that is already a huge gap. When I'm talking about threshold, right, I'm actually trying to mean what is the exact premium that you want to pay for a bigger unit versus a smaller unit. Because if exceed, then you can walk away straight. Don't be confused. Let me give you my perspective. This is where it might get a little bit more confusing. Based on this zoning, you can see that based on this price point, it is again a little bit more different from 2-bed 1-bath earlier. I'm comparing between a 2-bed 1-bath versus the 1 plus study. Between these two layouts, how much is a good price to pay for a extra bedroom? For me, it's actually at $150,000 more, because based on the surrounding resale prices, right, anything that is between $150,000 to $180,000, I feel is something that when you want to sell in the future is what the future buyers will be willing to pay for. So in this sense, if let's say, for example, during booking day, you are able to find a 2-bed 1-bath that is between $1.5 million all the way up to $1.67 million, I will feel that this will be something that will be sensible. We are buying into certainty, because if you have a real 2-bedroom, any future buyers will understand as compared to having a 1 plus study. But of course, anything that is closer to $1.7 million, I might not want to go for, because why? This price if you pay $100,000 more, essentially you'll be able to get River Green's 2-bed 2-bath. For example, on that day itself, all the 2-bed 1-bath for River Green has been sold. Then does that mean that the 1+ study is not something you can go for? Actually, no. The threshold for a 1+ study for me would be very much lower. My threshold for a 1+ study would potentially go up to $1.5 million. This is because when I look at the rental yield for surrounding project, for example, Irwell Hills, why I actually want to prioritize the 2-bed 1-bath is because the future potential rental that you can fetch is very different when we compare side by side between a 2-bed 1-bath and a 1 study. For the 2-bed 1-bath, you can get a potential of about $5,000. If I break it down based on your purchase price, based on the rental, you can fetch 3.8 all the way up to 4.29%. Compared to a 1+ study at Promenade Peak, your rental yield could potentially be highest 3.6%. You definitely do see that there is a huge disparity in the rental. There is definitely going to be more demand in a bigger unit type. So that is why during booking day, I would definitely first prioritize River Green's 2-bed 1-bath in comparison to a 1+ study. The next one we are going to compare is the smallest 2-bed 2-bath for both of these projects. Take a look at River Green's floor plan, which is on the left. You can see that River Green's 603 square feet 2-bed 2-bath, even though there is no window for the kitchen and the bathroom, this floor plan is pretty nice because they have a good sized kitchen. It is also enclosed and tucked into the side. As compared to Promenade Peak is on a bigger side, ranging between 657 and 667 square feet. I would say that the main difference between these two layouts is definitely Promenade foyer area, which the developers actually put the kitchen. I think in terms of space, if a buyer were to go into River Green and Promenade Peak, they probably don't see that big difference. But as compared, I think the buyer or the tenant will have more preference towards River Green's kitchen, especially for people who want to do some cooking. If I'm looking at River Green versus Promenade Peak, what is the threshold that I will want to decide on before I actually go into booking? River Green definitely will stand out more because of its enclosable kitchen. So all the way up to 1.72 million, this is definitely something that I will go for first as compared to Promenade Peak, because it is definitely more functional and livable and what future buyers will appreciate more. But if let's say during booking day, all of River Green's units from 1.7 million all the way up to 1.87 million has been sold outright, then your next priority will be towards Promenade Peak, because their starting price starts from $1.8 million. So even though the kitchen is not as nice as River Green, Promenade Peak's entire square feet is much bigger, so there will be lower per square foot in comparison. And because of that, that's why I will prioritize the 2-bed 2-bath for Promenade Peak. I will actually focus all the way up to $1.9 million, which is what I call Zone 2. Then next, if let's say all of these units are sold out, I go back to River Green again. Let's say for example, level 20 to level 31, they have their pricing of $1.9 million. They have available units there. Let's say for example, these units are sold out already and these units are sold out already. Then I'll go to Zone 3 of River Green and look at the units. If these units are sold out, then I will go back to these units over here. If these units are also sold out, I'll jump back to Zone 5 because this price is actually very similar to what River Green's 2+ study starting price is. The next one I want to talk about is Promenade Peak's bigger unit types of the 2-bed 2-bath as compared to the same floor plan for River Green, which is 603 square feet. In terms of the floor plan, really there's no big difference between these two unit types. The main difference is actually at the foyer space. Not all unit types are the ones that you want to go for. Why? Because this price is actually very similar to what River Green's 2+ study starting pricing from $2.1x million. Next we want to run through is actually the 2+ study for River Green. So you can see that between River Green's floor plan of a 2-bedroom versus a 2+ study, the difference is 50+ square feet. For 2+ study, 657 square feet for River Green is the same size as what Promenade Peak's 2-bed 2-bath is. To be honest, this 2+ study is going to be more advantageous because both are actually the same size, but River Green actually has the extra closable kitchen and also they have a study area over here as compared to Promenade Peak, which is a linear kitchen and doesn't have that study area. The next one, you can see that based on the 2 plus study for River Green, definitely is much more advantageous compared to Promenade Peak's 2-bed 2-bar. Next, we are going to see between all the 2 plus studies for these 2 projects. You can see that River Green is 657 square feet, but in comparison for Promenade Peak, their 2 plus study is so much bigger. I do have a little bit concern in terms of this layout. The show flat unit is actually the 764. The study over here feels a little bit like dead space. So this study will be more towards a place where people will want to do like extra storage for shoes and stuff. In comparison, the 2 plus study for River Green definitely is more proper. Let us look at the prices first. During launch day, if let's say you are looking at a 2 plus study and you have a budget of about $2.3 million, here is how I will actually categorize your purchase. So what I did earlier, I segregate these units based on different zones. I will definitely prioritize River Green first because it's more affordable. Anything from 1.9 all the way up to 2.1 million is something that I will go for, because this price is something that I think the higher floors River Green 2-bedroom are asking for. If let's say all of the units here are being sold, the next area that I want to focus on would definitely be towards the Promenade Peak side. So Promenade Peak's indicative price starts from about $2.1 million. So you can see that over here I have categorize the prices between these 3 units. The first column is actually 764 square feet. The second column is 786. The third one is 797 square feet. They are all different colors. If based on the second floor, the starting price for a 2 plus study starts from 2.1 million, which is already provided based on the indicative price. If River Green's units here sold out, our focus on the units is based on the lower floor units first, highlighted here as zone 2. Then after that, if these units are being sold out, then I'll go back to zone 3 again. Likewise, I have done a red line for you to be clearer, because my personal threshold is anything that is reaching this amount would be very close to what a 3-bedroom in River Green will be asking for. So based on what I've covered, I think the biggest mistakes most likely will happen in the 2-bedroom section when comparing the smallest unit type and the bigger unit type. Because these 2 projects have very different size, the quantum that you are going to enter is going to be different. So the way that you are going to navigate around these 2 projects, right, to tell yourself, when I cross this when all the units pass zone 1, I need to go back to another project. This is where the tricky part will come in. If you actually want this spreadsheet, I'm happy to share with you. Otherwise, if you are still confused, you still want to have more clarity on how to choose units, contact me via my number. I will be happy to talk to you even if you already placed your check with other agent. So the next thing you want to look at is actually the 3-bedroom. Like what I mentioned, this analysis is not about 2-bedroom to 2-bedroom. It's really comparing between like different unit types, because the sizes that developers build are so different. The first one on the left we are looking at is River Green's 3-bedroom at 786 square feet. This size is very similar to what Promenade Peak's 2 plus study. For River Green, there is one thing that is not so nice, is their 3rd bedroom actually only can fit in a single size right over here. But otherwise, all their bathroom and kitchen actually comes with windows. In comparison to Promenade 2 plus study, is definitely not as nice. So definitely when we are looking at these 2 unit types, they are definitely going to launch at very different prices. Now the question is, what is the threshold, right? What is the amount that makes sense for you to top up to have a proper 3-bedroom? For me, between a 2 plus study versus a 3-bedroom, anything that is between $200,000 to $230,000 would be a sound decision for me to be very willing to go for a 3-bedroom as compared to a 2 plus study. During launch day, I think it's very natural for the River Green's 3-bedroom to be more sought after than the 2 plus study over here. I mean, it's quite obvious, right? Any HDB upgrader finally got their chance to get into River Green, and this entry price of between 2.2 to 2.3 million is something that more likely you will find in like the heartland areas. But now everybody finally got that chance to come into River Green. The indicative price for Promenade Peak 2 plus study is between 2.1 to 2.5 $5 million. Then in this sense, I will go back to River Green. I don't mind doing the top up for that proper 3-bedroom. If this gets sold out, then of course you will go back here again, right? Anything closer to 2.5 million, be wary because you're getting a 2 plus study at such a high quantum when these two sizes are very identical because TOP is very similar. They are going to sell at the same time, right? So when River Green's 3-bedroom is sold in the market versus a 2 plus study, although the quality of Promenade Peak, although the landscaping is nicer, but any buyer that is comparing between these two projects, they immediately understand that a 3-bedroom in River Green will make more sense. So I feel in this sense, paying $2.5 million for River Green's 3-bedroom is more future-proof compared to paying $2.5 million for Promenade Peak. But of course, if you're somebody who actually feel that you still like Promenade landscaping more, you don't mind a 2 plus study, you can definitely choose for a 2 plus study. But however, if you're somebody who still wants to future-proof your purchase, you want to make sure that the unit that you're buying into is still something that most people will want to accept, then definitely choose River Green first. Next, we are going to River Green's 3-bedroom. Take a look at the 3-bedroom, which is 872 and 883 square feet. I think this is the sweet spot of the 3-bedrooms in this comparison. Why? Because even though it's 872 and 883 square, this floor plan can fit a 6-seater dining. The master bedroom can fit a king-size bed. All rooms are proportionate. It can definitely be considered as a good standard 3-bedrooms. Definitely in comparison, the 3-bedroom is going to be much more expensive than a 2 plus study, right? Then we also want to know if you are someone who still prefers 3-bedroom but you have a budget limit. We also want to decide on that threshold. What is that extra that you pay for if you want to go for a 3-bedroom? What is that threshold that you can go for to pay for that additional unit size? So for me, for example, my threshold would be paying that extra $350,000 more would be something that would make sense in my opinion. For example, the indicative price for Promenade Peak 2 plus study is already at $2.1 to $2.5 million. I feel that a good quantum will be between $250 to $350,000 for a higher floor unit. But take note that the indicative price for the 3-bedroom actually starts from $2.25 million. If you are the most blessed one, then you can straight away go and buy the 3-bedroom. So next, we are going to do the 4-bedroom comparison. You can see that the biggest 4-bedroom for River Green is 980 square feet. Quite honestly, one of the smallest unit type that you have seen in today's new launches. As compared to Promenade Peak, their smallest 3-bedroom is actually 1,000 plus square feet. Why I actually want to compare this is because River Green, yes, although developers actually was able to put in what is necessary in a 4-bedroom, but my worry is this 4-bedroom, especially the living space, does not feel like a 4-bedroom living room. Take for example, I think yesterday I brought my buyer to Promenade Peak. He is so used to staying in the River Valley area. When I told him about these two projects, he only wanted to see Promenade Peak because he finds that 4-bedroom in River Green is too small for his liking. At 980 square feet is really tough for people who are very used to staying here to accept this kind of size. So I've also brought buyers to Robertson Opus. Their biggest 4-bedroom is 1,500 plus. These buyers, they are so used to seeing the 4-bedrooms in River Valley area at 1,008 to 2,000 square feet. So suddenly, I bring them to Robertson Opus at 1,500 square feet. They are not used to it. They actually feel that it's a little bit too small for their family. So in this sense, I would say that there is a group of people in River Valley that most likely will not favor the 980 square feet 4-bedroom in River Green and will more likely prefer the sizes in Promenade Peak. I think it will be more suitable for the HDB upgraders who are actually trying to get into the CCR area at a very affordable price. But however, I honestly feel that if you want to sell it in the resale market, I think this 4-bedroom will perform better if it is marketed as a 3-bedroom. What you can do is you can tear down this wall to actually build into a bigger master bedroom as a whole, or you can actually tear down this wall to build into a bigger living space so that this entire unit will look more spacious. But with that being said, 980 square feet, developers still can fit in a household shelter, still can fit in a proper kitchen, right? And if I were to tear down these walls, okay, what I suggested, which is between the master or between the living area, this floor plan will be much more attractive compared to the 3-bedroom 1033 and 1076 square feet. Now, my worry for the 1033 and 1076 square feet is the bathroom doesn't come with their windows. The starting price for Promenade Peak is about $2.7 million. So for any buyers who come into River Valley area at $2.7 million to $3 million, right, they have options. When they see the bathroom doesn't have windows, I do have worry that there will be some objection because they are paying this amount of money already. So of course they will have some expectations in terms of the layout. Next, we are going to move on to the indicative price for River Green versus Promenade Peak. So River Green's indicative price for the 4-bed is actually 2.8 million versus Promenade Peak's 3-bed at 2.7 million. The indicative prices between these layouts are very similar. So if you ask me, I actually would have more preference for River Green's 4-bedroom first as compared to Promenade Peak's smallest 3-bedroom. From now on, I'm going to move on to the premium series. So these are the biggest unit type for Promenade Peak already. Based on the premium series, it actually ranges from a 3-bedroom premium, 4-bedroom, and 5-bedroom, whereby there is privately for each of the unit types that I'm going to share. First, we are going to look at the 3-bedroom premium. The master bedroom is actually very spacious. They have proper storage room and utility, which the smaller 3-bedroom in Promenade Peak does not have. The issue is, right, the second bathroom for this layout does not have individual windows. So even though these two floor plans are very nice, they definitely do have very good quality. Now the next question we want to ask is, will there any buyer will be willing to pay $3.5 million perhaps for this layout? And at this kind of layout prices, are there options that are better for the future buyers? My only worry is it might dilute the demand for the 3-bedroom premium. Like what I mentioned, I'm not here to actually sell you any project. Like I think the main purpose of my video is to provide you with clarity and give you the exact facts so that you can make a more informed decision. So next we are going to look at is actually the 4 bedrooms. From here onwards, Promenade Peak's bigger units definitely is very, very nice. In fact, when I serve resale buyers, I bring them over here, they actually fall in love with the floor plan. So first let us look at the smaller 4 bedrooms, which is the 1421 square feet. So for this layout, definitely very nice. Between these two floor plans, there is type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is more L-shaped in terms of the living space as compared to type 2, which is more squarish. These units is start from $4.4 million. My favorite would actually be the 1582 square feet because this floor plan has an additional powder room. This is what River Valley buyers are still looking for. In fact, yesterday when I brought my buyer here, he actually prefers this floor plan as compared to the smaller unit type. But of course, this floor plan, definitely you won't expect that the per square foot will start from 3,001 per square foot, like what I compared earlier. This floor plan will most likely start from 3,300 per square foot. So it will definitely bring the entire quantum higher. Next, we are going to look at is the 5 bedroom. 5 bedroom actually is 1884 square feet. There are only 19 units of such. Starting price is about $6.2 million. This floor plan is actually even nicer, but at 6.2 million, even though this floor plan is very luxurious, but there are also other options that are in the market as well. Just to sum up, River Green actually wins for the smaller units, to be exact, the 1 bedroom all the way up to the 3 bedrooms, because it has better layout, is more functional and provides more value even if you have a tight budget. But Promenade Peak actually will win if you are looking at mainly the bigger units. If you're looking between the 3 bedroom premium and above, it definitely provides more grandeur, it has more exclusivity, and will provide you with more wow factor, which is honestly what a lot of more mature River Valley buyers are looking for. In these two projects, we are looking at very different audiences. If you are looking at investment standpoint, you have a tighter budget, you are focusing on smaller units, my preference would to go to the River Green. If you are buying into the bigger unit types, then you want to know that the next future buyer that you are targeting at are the ones that are willing to pay big bucks. Technically speaking, they want the entire space to feel more grand. So the most important question that you want to ask yourself before you book a unit is, what is actually right for your situation? Like what I mentioned earlier, this project is going to be a lot of hype. Don't stretch beyond your comfort zone. Do not buy out of FOMO. If you don't get anything from these launches, don't worry, because there are still Zion Grand, there is still another launch that is coming up. So do not be so worried that you might miss out on a unit lah. Okay. Lastly, if you are not able to navigate around this very confusing and chaotic situation, if you want to chat, you can reach out to me. I hope this analysis has helped. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Good luck on your launch day.